Stimulus to hit established property. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here with a new stein of morning coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this news.com.au article discussing the potential negative consequences of the stimulus package that our government is proposing. We'll see more details about this package in the next few days, but they seem to be throwing the kitchen sink, the laundry tub, the car, and the children in the bassinet at the property sector, doing everything they can to lift it up. Property really does seem to be the hope for our civilization. We're obsessed with property here in Australia, guys. For those of you overseas watching, you probably wouldn't appreciate just how much of a national sport property is. It's just everyone is interested. Everyone wants to get into it. We're hearing stories about teachers with 6 negatively geared properties. Going to lose everything because it's all at interest only. And he's got no capital in any of them. So let's have a look at this. Home buyers grant. Property experts debate the impact of the stimulus package on house prices. And here we go. Here's the other side of this. Because remember, this stimulus package is another intervention into the market. They're not allowing it to correct. Yesterday, I was out on site doing a laser scan. And I remember looking out over a scene very similar to this picture. Just roof upon roof of, custom orb, metal spec homes. Metal spec homes. We're working on a job where they're having to extend a school because just the population growth in that area. This is out near Springfield Lakes, and my car, I haven't bothered to update my sat-nav on it, so the map on the car, it doesn't even have this whole city there. It's literally, in the last 5 years, sprung up out of nowhere, and there's just row after row of these specky houses. And I'm thinking, wow, there's nothing special or unique about any of these places. I mean, it's convenient. It's not too far from Brisbane, not too far from the Gold Coast, close to Ipswich. You're not too far from Toowoomba, so it's a pretty nice location out there. Not too bad, but they got no backyards. You can hear, if you're watching these videos for a while, you'll hear my children fight, bicker, and play outside. Because just behind me there, we've got the backyard, and I'm at the moment, it's adventuring now. I think 2 of them got backpacks, and they're adventuring around the backyard, playing and making a mess. And that's part of childhood. At least that was part of mine. But with these tiny blocks where you've got no yard to play in, and you couldn't even grow a tree in them. How are you going to climb a tree? Or am I just that outdated, everyone? Do kids not do that anymore? I mean, come on, I'm not that old. We used to have Nintendos and computer games and television back in the day. But I guess you had to wait a week to see the next episode of your show. So enough of story time. Let's get back to this. The government's proposed new home buyers grant will result in established properties being abandoned and ultimately driving down housing prices, according to a leading economist. So because this grant, the aim of it is to encourage new construction. It's going to affect existing houses. So maybe what that is telling us is the demand for houses is inflated. Established houses is inflated because of all of these grants and incentives that have come into the market. Property hunters will reportedly be offered a $25,000 cash incentive to build a new home under the looming stimulus plan to support jobs in the construction industry. I was talking to a gentleman about this yesterday on site, the foreman, and I was saying what people need, what they need is just these little starter homes, because we were discussing this stimulus proposal. They need little starter homes, little 2-bedders that you just extend on, like back in the day. You don't need a huge house. You don't need air conditioning. You don't need a media room. You don't need those things. When you're getting started, particularly as a young couple, as your first home, or even as a singleton as your first home, you don't need all this stuff. You should be able to attach it on later. Just the square meterage cost of building a whole lot of empty space to store IKEA crap. So Chief AMP economist Shane Oliver said this will likely lead to buyers deserting homes already built in a market severely weakened by consumer demand. The significantly lower rate of immigration as a result of the pandemic is viewed by property experts as a major factor for forecasting falls in prices, with the number of people entering the country tipped to fall by about $200,000 in the next 12 months, No, sorry, fall by about 200,000 to 35,000. So that's going to definitely have a significant impact on property. Traditionally, home buyer grants have been positive for house prices, and there's no doubt this will help some developers promoting buildings to be sold by boosting demand for properties, Dr. Oliver told news.com.au. But it will also detract demand from established housing. So on balance, it could actually be a bit of a negative on property prices. It switches demand from established homes to new homes, and over time, it will lead to an increase in supply of new property, which will put upward pressure on vacancy rates, which have already gone up as a result of the pandemic shock. So wait a minute. A government intervention into the market to prop up the economy may have unintended consequences? So then you're getting all these people purchasing these homes, and in a few years' time, they've lost money on them? No, we can't see anything like that ever happening. If immigration numbers stay low, Dr. Oliver said, there could be a flow of new properties coming on the market, leading to higher vacancy rates and ultimately an oversupply. Well, also, what about international student numbers and tourism, if that's still down? What if more of these Airbnbs flood the market? Normally, underlying demand for dwellings is about 200,000 a year, and if we go down to 120, that's a huge hit, he said. The fears of scaled-back demand isn't supported by search activity for property online, according to REA Group Director of Economic Research, Cameron Kusher. It's always about the search activity. But there's probably a lot of people thinking, well, wait a minute. I've got my super out. Those that didn't gamble it away. I've got my super out. A couple. Each 10 grand. Oh, another 10, 20 grand next month. I can get this 25 grand. All of a sudden, I can rock up with $65,000 deposit. How many people are going to potentially buy something or get into the market with that? How many people would be better off if they took 40 grand out of super and then managed to get into the housing sector and paid it off by the time they retired, so they had their own home? There's a question, guys. He said the number of consumers looking for housing on realestate.com.au has never been as high. Well, we're all stuck at home, guys. We're all stuck at home. Last month was actually a record month for inquiries for our new home section, he told news.com.au. So people are looking at the property market, but one of the challenges at the moment is there's not a lot of properties listed for sale. I don't think people will desert the established market. The property stimulus yet to be announced by the government is tipped to include a cash incentive for Australians to embark on renovations. Mr. Kusher said this will encourage potential buyers to knock down existing properties or to rebuild or build a new home behind an older dwelling on a larger block. Or what I'm looking at doing, lift an all Queenslander up and build underneath. From our perspective, that wouldn't be new stimulus or new spending. It would just pull something forward. So I have to do the sums. Because I'm worried that this stimulus will also put extra strain on tradies and increase the cost of doing things. A bubble in a sector where money supply is increased. That's the path in of this new money. So migration is a major risk to prices. Yes, well, we've looked at this before, guys. I've brought this chart up several times. The black line there shows the percent of building approvals that's driven by foreign investors. It was over 90% back in the big boom we had. And I'm thinking, we haven't really got the information on this proposal, but will it be targeting just spec homes or just standard homes as opposed to units? Because I can tell you, for one thing, if I was going for a house, I'd be looking for even something without a backyard as opposed to a apartment building, because then you just don't have all the added risk that you can't detect. I mean, worst case, if one of these things, has irreparable damage and you got to bulldoze it and build it again, you could put a little house on there for 150 grand and still have your land value. Whereas if you're buying an apartment, that's a much scarier prospect. And it's this little socialist body corporate world that just doesn't gel well with my independent streak. But that's just my bias, everyone. So it has been he says a large portion of the country's economic expenditure is based on more and more people arriving each year. Exactly. So our GDP growth per person is actually going below trend since the GFC. So we're still growing, but on a per capita basis, we're below trend. So in essence, you could say growth has been depressed since the global financial crisis for the last 12 years in Australia. It has been one of the key reasons why Australia hasn't had a recession for 30 years, because we kept getting additional demand from people migrating from overseas. But will that continue? How many people do you know that have come from overseas and are going, you know what, this is just so expensive here, I can't get a job in my professional field, I've studied this postgraduate degree here and it's useless to me, I'm going back home. I've met people like that. Have you? Let me know in the comments. Let's get some good old anecdotal data here. So Melbourne and Sydney prices to fall. Grim forecasts at the height of the pandemic predicted property prices to fall between 20 to 30% over the next year. But those projections have largely been trimmed after the government's job seeker and JobKeeper packages provided income support, combined with the banks allowing struggling Australians to defer mortgages. Dr. Oliver said the expiration of these mechanisms will ultimately lead to higher unemployment and will weigh on housing prices. Exactly, so I think they will do everything they can to kick that can down the road, guys. I'm really starting to... I would be shocked now if the government wouldn't continue some of these mechanisms in place past September or October. What do you think in the comments? Can you bet on it, guys? Does Sportsbet have... Because I'll put 100 on it. I'd put 100 on Sportsbet just to see. Oh, no, I couldn't. Because then you got to sign up online and do all this rubbish. And, oh, it's a pain. Anyway, don't gamble. He is currently predicting the Sydney and Melbourne markets to fall about 10% over the next 12 months, Canberra to be largely unchanged, and other capital cities to lose about 5% in value. I wouldn't be surprised if Canberra remained unchanged. I mean, it's the seat of our bureaucracy, the capital of the nation. So they're going to, we've seen on property data, that just, frankly, commercial property didn't take a hit. So that means there's going to be demand for workers and space there, and that'll flow through to the private residential sector. So here we have it, everyone, a take from Dr. Shane Oliver regarding the potential negative consequences of this incentive. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, this is the thing. Any one of these actions or interventions into the market will have more consequences than people realize, particularly more than you'll hear in the headlines. But people won't. Here's the problem. People are just going to be interested in their own interest, which makes complete sense. So they're thinking 25 grand, yep, I'll need it. I don't care. I'm not going to be one of those existing homeowners. I want to get in the market. I want to get in and do what I can. We'll have to see, guys. Let me know your opinions on this. Are you planning to jump in? Are you taking your super? Are you taking the potential cash grant? Will you jump in the market looking for a nice little specky with a tiny yard? I still think we need to look at those starter homes. Little two-bedders. Two-bedders just as a start. Maybe even you lay the slab. You lay the slab for potential future rooms. Just make it a patio now. And then as you need it, just chuck up some stud. Put some cladding on there. Anyone can put a bit of stud up, guys, and get a builder to make it structurally sound. You can do your own lining yourself. Get your own a builder's license. Maybe. We'll have to have a look. As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You could join us on YouTube or Patreon. Support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode.